Morning, Lourdes.
Good morning, Maria. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Coaching Conversations. This is a safe space, and I'm Lourdes Lafer.
Hi, I'm Maria Sabio, and thanks for joining us today. And please be sure to watch to the end because we do give you daily practices so that you can, you know, practice this to help you move forward. Um, Today we're talking about something we all face, the hard reality that um, living by our best values isn't easy or instant.
Yeah. I mean, you try to build habits around kindness, integrity, authenticity, calm. That's a big one for me. Self reliance, and sometimes you get knocked down, or even end up feeling worn out.
Yeah, what reminded me when you said calm was how we both try to incorporate a lot of somatic therapies into our sessions because that's one of the things that keeps us, right at the edge sometimes is because we're still in that fight or flight state. And by adding, tapping and other modalities, try to keep get our state into a homeostasis. And we do that with the somatic therapies. But let me go back to what we were talking about.
No, I,
Uh,
I, I 100% agree that pointing that out because, like, I was talking to a young woman yesterday, and she's going through a difficult time. But I asked her, she's working with a therapist. This is not a client of mine, a friend. And I asked her, well, does your therapist do any somatic work with you? And um, really hadn't. So I took her through some tapping just to help her feel better and lower her cortisol. And, it's amazing how, with a short practice, really, we didn't spend more than 5 minutes.
mhm.
She felt so much better. And now she's got that in her back pocket, right? Now she can use that at home whenever she's struggling and being challenged by life, which is kind of our life condition, right?
Yeah, I actually have an alarm, and I do tapping on myself
Mm.
at least once a day, where I tap, and I recommend it to my clients. Tap once a day, even if you don't need it, because your set level is higher than it needs to be, and we just want to keep bringing it lower and lower because you'll experience calm for longer periods of time,
Yeah.
and that'll be your normal to be calm. And life can be triggering, but it'll be less triggering when you're in a calm state, right?
Yeah.
So,
Wait,
going,
before you go
sure,
on,
sure,
I
sure.
just want to throw in that something that I do, like you do the tapping, I do tapping too. I'm not as consistent with it as you are, but I do have a mindfulness bell that goes off every hour on the hour, reminding me to just take a couple of mindful breaths, and I find that to
Yeah,
be so helpful.
yeah, no, definitely. I love it. I love it. But okay, so it's normal. It's part of growth, and giving up because it's hard. That's the exact place where so many people, they miss the breakthrough. The hard part is getting through the chaos right before that calm.
Yeah, yeah. So today we're going to explore why coming back again and again to what truly matters isn't a burden, it's a relief, and how you can find joy in the struggle itself. Because let's face it, consistency is hard. Psychology shows that habit formation isn't linear. It can take over 2 months for a behavior to become automatic. And that's if you don't get derailed and have to start all over again, right?
Right. No, definitely. And this is such a key point because we're so fast to say, oh, I failed. I failed. We try once or twice and we think, oh, I'm a failure. And we label ourselves incorrectly because neuroscience backs up this fact that we're building new neural pathways and it takes time and repeated effort. So when you slip up, your brain hasn't fully wired the new habit yet. So don't give up on yourself. Just understand it's a biological failure. It's not you failing. It's something your brain has to get used to it. It's like, expecting to be able to run a marathon when you can only really practice running a mile. But when you get tired or frustrated that your right actions haven't become second nature, remember, it's a process.
Yeah. And, honestly, I really wish I had learned this much earlier in life. I struggled a lot with that label of I can't, that coming up to, the struggle and then resistance and then labeling myself a failure. I'll never be able to do X, Y, and Z. I just can't do it. Years ago, when I was struggling through a statistics class, I was faced with that again. I've never been, again, self-labeling. I've never been super great at math. And so it was like, oh my gosh, it just felt like this overwhelming, daunting thing. I was white knuckling it, gritting my teeth, didn't want to take the course. It was required. But I learned during the course this fact that the brain is growing in the areas wherever you're exerting your effort, wherever you're paying attention, wherever you're trying to learn a new skill, learn new information, or new habits. Your brain is actually growing in those areas, and so giving up fast, you're selling yourself short because you're not giving your brain the time that it needs to grow in that area and to wire in that area. Marcus Aurelius talks about not giving up in disgust or weariness, but coming back after being repulsed by it all. And that is resilience in action. He compares it, he compares returning to wisdom, not like a child begging a teacher or a parent, but like a patient returning to medicine. It's a relief. It's necessary healing. And that's the step that we need to take.
Yeah, I like what you shared. It's a real game changer because it shifts the mindset from I'm failing to I'm healing. And when you incorporate self-compassion, which is a real powerhouse, when you add self-compassion, you start realizing that, hey, I'm not coddling myself. I'm understanding that it takes time. It takes time, and just give myself time to get it done. And we all have certain skills and certain wiring that allows some people to learn things faster than us. It's not a competition. So it's, practice self-compassion. Christian Neff, she works on this, and she shows in her studies that being kind to yourself when you stumble, it keeps you motivated instead of shutting down. So that's power, real power.
Yeah. And, I just love Kristen Neff's work. And it's such an important practice, that self compassion, to stay motivated and not beat yourself up.
Yeah.
When you get weary, it's your inner critic that tries to convince you to quit. But what if you treated yourself like a good friend, offering encouragement instead? That's emotional resilience. And, bouncing back by nurturing yourself is so much more helpful than beating yourself up.
Yeah, what's really great is also that neuroscience backs up the self-compassion, because it shows us that it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, calming us, calming the stress response, and helping us to regulate the emotions better. So, like we were saying before, we're basically in a fight or flight status. a lot more than what we think we are. So the next time, just, the next time you feel worn out, or you feel stressed, overwhelmed, just pause for a second and ask yourself, how would I support a friend right now? Then, give into that instead, and give that to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to throw in, with the fight or flight, some people go into freeze or fawn, right? So
Hmm.
if this fight or flight, it doesn't resonate with you, it may be that your go-to is freezing or fawning. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I just want to add that my mine was really fight, so I would anger easily. But I know that certain people, you can see they shut down. They don't want to talk, and that's the freeze or the fawn, or they need to step away. So if you're one of these people, again, this is what we're talking about, bringing yourself back to homeostasis, and it's for some people, it's going to take a long time. It really just depends on what happened, when it happened, what support you had, and who supported you. Sorry.
yes, yes to all of that. But when we align with our true nature, our intuition, our inner wisdom, right? We let go of those fleeting desires or distractions that cause the emotional turmoil or suffering. And modern psychology agrees acting in line with your values creates intrinsic motivation, which is so much more sustainable and joyful than chasing external rewards.
Yeah, the autonomy, the competence, and the relatedness, it fuels motivation and well-being, and living authentically, it satisfies those needs. And so when you come back to your principles, self-reliance, simplicity, courtesy, or piety, you're actually aligning with your core self, which feels like it really does, it feels like a relief. It's unburdening yourself.
Yeah, so important. And, that's why these virtues can be delightful. The pleasure isn't superficial, it's deep and consistent. So, by elevating our inner wisdom, we connect to our ability to understand and know what's right, know what's true for us deeply.
Right. Yeah. And it's a beautiful way to think about our higher reasoning. And again, neuroscience, it shows that wise judgment involves that balanced brain activity. It's the integration of emotion and cognition. And philosophically, wisdom is more than just knowledge, it's practical, fluid, and understanding. It's and guiding our decisions with, yeah, like we said, with compassion and clarity.
Yeah, and what you just said about wise judgment involving that balance, think about it. When you feel out of balance, when you have that muddled thinking, when you're super stressed out and you're being reactive, that's not your wisdom. You know that you're out of alignment and that you're not going to make your best decisions in that state, right? And so, this wisdom can be your anchor when habits falter and when motivation dips. So, returning to it, it's like reconnecting with your internal compass. And because it's reliable, it builds confidence over time, even if progress isn't perfect or immediate.
Right. And you have to build that practice, right? So we want to, as always, give you our daily practice recommendation so that you can start, bringing that calm, going through that chaos and getting to that calm state for yourself. And most importantly, remind you that it's a practice, keep coming back without losing heart. So, first of all, notice your setbacks without judgment. Just name them simply as part of your growth. Have an understanding that it's a process, you're progressing. And then practice the self compassion by speaking kindly to yourself as you would a friend, and reaffirm your core values. Write down one virtue or principle you want to embody. Remember again, repetition is your ally. And take one small step, one intentional, aligned action with your values each day, no matter how small it is.
Yes. And remember, consistency isn't about perfection, it's about persistence with kindness. So we'll close with this quote from the wonderful Joseph Campbell. We must be willing to let go of the life we planned to have the life that is waiting for us.
Right. And coming back to your true nature again and again is exactly that challenge, that gift. So keep showing up for yourself with patience and courage. Your growth is happening, even when it feels slow.
Yeah. So remember, persistence doesn't mean perfect. What's what's one small step you can take today despite the fatigue, right? Thanks for being here with us. We're walking this journey right beside you. Take care of your mind, take care of yourself. And if you found this even a little helpful, like, follow, and subscribe to support our work. We'll see you next time.